Hello, this tutorial is on arranging furniture. So at this point, you have now created 3 hand-drawn floor plans, and you have added doors, windows, etc. So that's just the basic layout of a room, very basic. Now is the really important part, applying, adding your furniture to make sure that your room has good design. So I'm going to go through with you some guidelines that you are going to apply to adding furniture to these rooms. And you're actually going to be adding furniture template pieces to the 3 floor plans that you've already done in part 2 of that activity, which I'll explain later. So the first guideline is you need to assess your scaled floor plan. So you want to look just for good design by use of elements and principles. So you want to make sure that you're looking for shape, rhythm, harmony, things like that. All the things that you learned in Module 1. So some things you want to consider. What are the natural focal points? So do you have a fireplace? Do you have a big window? Is there a view? That's something you want to consider. If it has the golden mean, and what the golden mean means is if you draw a line down the middle of the room, is it equal on both sides? Just to make sure that the space is evenly distributed. All right. Is there pleasing room shapes? You don't want to have open, long, narrow spaces where it's just wasted space in your room. You want to make sure that everything's equally placed to have good flow, traffic, etc. Is there a pleasing balance in each room? Look at the wall spaces, the windows, the door placement, if there's a room adjoining, etc. Those are all things that help with balance and distribution of the space in the room. If you have some open spaces, will furniture help compensate for that empty space? Or if you have an undesirable feature in the room that can't be moved because it just helps with the layout of the house, can you compensate with furniture? Things like that. And then you also want to make sure that you plan on where the electrical outlets are, because you don't want to put your couch right by where the only electrical outlet is for the whole house. So you want to keep all those things into consideration. So that's the first thing. You're assessing all these things of the floor plan. Next, before you start putting the furniture in, does the room have purpose? What is the purpose of the room? Do you want it to watch TV? Do you want it to relax? Do you want it to read? What do you want it to do? So you have to ask yourself that question. What is the overall purpose? Is it for entertaining? You need to decide that before you start putting furniture in a room. And then obviously, how much furniture do you want to put in it? Will it accommodate the purpose or the function that you're hoping it will with the furniture you choose? Will there be the TV in the room? Things like that. And you can see there are a couple different, I have 2 different examples. This one has a TV. So this is more of an entertaining like space. There is a couch. There's 2 chairs for more seating for entertainment. And then the TV is the focal point. It doesn't always have to be artwork. The focal point here is TV. So the main purpose of this room in this first picture here is entertaining, relaxing, watching TV, etc. All right. And then in this room, there's still a TV, but it's not the main focal point of the room. The focal point here is the fireplace. Again, another multi-purpose room, entertaining, watching TV, etc. All right, the next thing you're going to do is assess the traffic patterns and standard clearance. So first off, traffic patterns is it's not like you're going to take your car and drive it through the house. A traffic pattern in a home is when you enter a doorway, what is the most common pattern that people will walk? All right. So like, for example, when I get home, I walk in my front door, I walk through the living room, and I go straight to the kitchen. and I go straight to the kitchen because that's where I put my bag, my purse, etc. Now, think to yourself, when you walk in your home, where do you directly go? Do you go upstairs to your room? Do you go downstairs to the basement? Do you go sit in the living room? What's the direct pattern that you take? What are some other common traffic patterns in your home? All right. So the other thing you want to assess is your standard clearance. And what that means, that's a very technical term, standard clearance. Standard clearance is the space within a doorway, a walkway, a hall, etc. Clearance around furniture, just so a person has enough space to move from location to location in that most commonly used traffic pattern. All right. So you can see here in the picture that the blue lines is the most common traffic spaces. Okay, so here's your front door. They walk in, and we have a pattern that goes to the dining room. We have a pattern that goes to the kitchen. We have a pattern that goes to this common area hallway, probably because there's a bathroom right here. It's just open space. Then we have a pathway to go into the living area, into the office, and then obviously into the bedrooms. You don't often see like just a direct shot, just straight or anything like that. It's usually curved, and there's always more than one traffic pattern. Okay, so to do this, what someone would actually do by hand is they have their hand-drawn floor plan, and then they'll take tracing paper over the scaled floor plan, and with a wide highlighter, they'll mark all traffic lanes in the home, just like pretty much what you see here. And then what they'll start doing is they use another piece of tracing paper, which is almost like a tissue paper. It's like see-through, over the floor plan, and block in major furniture pieces like the couch, a bed, things like that. Some things to consider: do not block entrances. Obviously, doorways should never be blocked because that's just bad flowage. Large pieces need to be evenly distributed to keep room balanced. Just that's following good elements and principles of design. And then just make sure that there's enough standard clearance around dining tables. You don't want your guests to get stuck, nor do you want to get stuck between a wall and a chair and a table. And then if you're planning to entertain, obviously you want to make sure that there's enough room for people to sit down and have conversations, proper distance to view TV, etc. And when you're doing this on your scaled floor plan, you can have multiple tracing paper over and over it until you think you have the right plan down, and then you'll just make one final plan at the end. So the next step is to arrange secondary groupings. So you're probably saying, well, what do you mean? Okay, well, here you're just putting in the big pieces of furniture. Well, where most rooms don't just have a couch or a bed, they have other things. So for example, a writing desk and a chair, occasional extra chairs, large plants, large accessories, etc. And when you're starting to add secondary groupings, like these big extra accessories, a good place to get ideas for inspiration or furniture pieces is Pinterest. There's just multiple posts of people's blogs and pictures of people's houses with really fun, trendy designs that would give you lots of ideas when you're putting your rooms together. So here are two examples. The one here on the left is a bedroom, and this is, again, a multi-purpose room. So this is just a bedroom. So in step 3, you would just have your bed drawn into it. Well, now you have to start applying your secondary grouping. So that would be your desk, the piano, because they're still substantially large, and they should still be built into the floor plan just to make sure you have enough. So you go into the room, you want to make sure you have enough space to get onto the bed. You want to make sure you have enough clearance space to use the desk, and then obviously still use the piano. So if there are 3 people in this room, almost 2 people can be on the bed, 1 could be sitting on the desk, and 1 person can be sitting on the piano, and there's enough clearance space around all of that for it to be used all at the same time and people have enough space to spread out, etc. Now, what would not make sense is if all of a sudden you put the piano in the middle of the room, or if you put the bed on an angle. Things like that would make for very poor clearance around each piece of each piece of furniture. Okay. Now the one on the right, this is a living room. And the secondary groupings here would be like the coffee tables, the plant, um, these are chairs here. Those are all still big pieces. They're just not as big as like the couches and things like that. Okay. Step 5 in your furniture arrangement process is the final checklist. So you're just going to go through, once you've placed all your pieces of furniture, reassess the principles and elements of design, just to make sure, look at it from your bird's eye view, which is just the overhead looking if you took off the roof, and then just make sure that there's good flow, etc. Make sure there's clearance between all furniture to make sure that people can move around. Make sure that the furniture that you're putting in the room is scaled correctly and it's not too big for the room. Ask yourself, after you've looked at those things, have you created a negative, do you have negative and positive spaces? Both of them should kind of balance out. If you have too much positive space, meaning space that is used, it's not a functional room. If you have too much negative space, then you're wasting the space. So you want to make sure it's 50-50. You want to make sure the room is balanced, and you kind of are doing that with your negative and positive space. You just want to make sure you're always following the golden mean by drawing the line down the center and make sure it's equal on both sides. And then, do you have a variety of shapes? So just make sure you have lots of textures, shapes, etc. And then, is there pleasing distribution of furniture heights in the room? You don't want everything at the same height. You want to create some illusion and rhythm to the eye. And last but not least, don't put all the furniture on the wall. That's one of the things that a lot of people do, is they just automatically go into the living room and they put the furniture against the walls. And it's the easiest type of design, but avoid the ring around the room syndrome, which means don't put all the furniture around the perimeter of the room. Don't be afraid to place furniture on a diagonal. It might make a more pleasing arrangement for your space. It looks pretty. Play with it. That's why when you're drawing out a floor plan and you have furniture pieces, you can easily distribute them and play with where you want things to go before you actually start moving these big, huge pieces of furniture. It just makes more sense to do it that way, because then you are ending up with a final product or space that you're happy with, rather than being unhappy with your room and redesigning it over and over and over and over. So here's an example of a room where the couch, the sofa, it's on a diagonal, and there's great clearance. You walk in, you can get into everything. There's chairs. The little rug here is dividing up the space, etc. Okay? And then your last step is your final presentation. All right, so you want to make sure your final floor plan with furniture is clean. You can use Sharpie marker, make sure it's labeled, etc. And then all final floor plans with are either they're just practice, or if you're using them in a presentation, you're going to mount them on black cardstock. If you want to get creative and mount them on other colored cardstock, that is fine. But the most professional mounting is done on black cardstock. And then you can paste that onto a foam board for any final presentations. All right? Have fun with your next assignment. If you have any questions, let your teacher know. Thank you.